I'm Ellen Howard, and I'm an Impressionist painter. I love Carmel, and just by the ocean, they have spectacular sunset. I love being by the ocean. I grew up originally in New Jersey, and I spent a lot of summers at the Jersey Shore. So the ocean has always had special appeal for me. But I have been expanding, and I enjoy painting mountain scenes too, out in the Tetons and Idaho areas. That's been an inspiration also.
Hello and welcome to Art, the podcast where we get to know women from around the world of visual arts. I'm Chris Stafford, and this is Season 3, Episode 3. My guest this week is the American Impressionist painter Ellen Howard. Ellen says, "My art is centered around living a faithful life and trusting in the unfolding of the great tapestry of life. As an avid explorer and traveller, I'm curious about the transitory elements of nature and love discovering quiet, unexplored areas. Seeing the light move across the land, cascading off a mountain range, streaming through the leaves, dancing on the top of the waves, and creating a beautiful ray of warmth in the sky and clouds is pure serenity, where I find my centre and solutions through art for life." Ellen has been a professional artist for 15 years, since she raised her two children, Rachel and Jonathan, and attending a range of art classes covering a wide variety of subjects and mediums. Her work has been shown extensively across the country and in a number of publications. Ellen was born in Summit, New Jersey in 1965 to parents Joyce and Jim Guter. Her mother was a nurse who dabbled in watercolours as a hobby, and her father was a musician and high school band director. Ellen grew up with her younger brother Mark in New Jersey and Massachusetts, but her parents divorced when she was just 14. Ellen immersed herself in swimming, running track and dancing with her friends as she navigated her teenage years. She graduated from Syracuse University with a BS in Marketing and Human Resources and, at the age of 24, moved to San Francisco, where she embarked on a career in finance, which, she says, stood her in good stead for running her own business. It was here that she met her husband and started a family. Now a full-time professional, Ellen divides her time behind the easel in her studio or in plein air. When she's not painting, she's giving classes and workshops, both in the US and in Europe. Ellen lives near San Francisco with her husband Mark and two dogs. Ellen, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Chris.
I know that you've been a listener to the podcast too, so you know what you let yourself in for, if you come on my show.
Yes, I'm well aware. Thank you.
Well, you're in San Francisco. Do you feel that's really home for you? Because you grew up on the East Coast, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 30 years now. And so I love being here. It's a beautiful area to live.
Now, you describe yourself as an avid explorer and traveler. So
yes.
Tell me, you love nature and landscapes, clearly, because they feature in your paintings. So where is the most inspiring setting that you paint? Do you paint plein air?
Yeah, I do paint a lot of plein air. I love Carmel, and just by the ocean, they have spectacular sunsets. I love being by the ocean. I grew up originally in New Jersey, and I spent a lot of summers at the Jersey Shore. So the ocean has always had special appeal for me. But I have been expanding, and I enjoy painting mountain scenes too, out in the Tetons and Idaho area. So that's been an inspiration also.
So how much of your time, obviously weather dependent, would you be spending painting outdoors then, Ellen, if you can?
I think it's probably about 50%. So 50% outdoors to get inspiration and to get color studies. You can't get the same color from photographs in the studio. So you really need to go out into nature and observe nature and see how the light hits a tree or the grass to be able to go back into the studio and do that correctly.
And what's your favorite light?
Oh, people laugh. I'm not always the best morning person. So I do like the afternoon and evening light. I love that golden hour when the ground is really lit up with a warm tone. So that's probably my favorite time of day.
Well, I want to go back to the beginning, but where it all began for you, because you said you're a New Jersey girl originally, but you've come back to your painting, haven't you? Having had another career in finance, you've circled around back to what you love doing.
Yes.
So how long have you been painting professionally now, Ellen?
Probably about 15 years now. Yeah.
And it's full time? How much time would you spend?
Yeah, it's full time. Yeah. So I paint almost every day. And there's a lot of, you're running your own kind of small business as an artist. So there's a lot of administrative work. I write a monthly newsletter that takes me some time. And, when you enter exhibitions, that's all kind of admin work. But I do it full time. Yes.
Paint us a picture of your studio. What light does it face?
I honestly don't have great light in my studio. I'm part of a building that has about 50 artist studios in there. So I really rely on kind of overhead light. And I have another light on my studio easel, but I don't have direct outside light. But I do a lot of work also at home with some gouache work that I can do at the table, not my oil painting work. And so I have some good light, from the house there.
And for the most part, then, how would you describe your approach to your art and the atmosphere that you like to create, where you can have to be in solitude, or do you allow anyone else anywhere near when you're painting?
I kind of like being alone, to be honest, unless I'm out plein air painting. I have a girlfriend that I've been painting with for a long time. We'll go out, we're very comfortable. She'll pick one spot kind of at the end, or we pick different spots to paint. And then we kind of come back together, and it's fun to, look at what each of us has done. But usually if I'm in the studio, I do like to work alone. I usually shut my door, put on some tunes, and just start my work.
And the solitude then takes you to the painting that you maybe have sketched outside, or got your color palette?
Yeah, I've either done a color study outside, or if I'm doing something that's lately I've been doing some paintings that have a limited palette and trying to create more mood in my work. So I will set out kind of the paints and establish kind of the composition that I'm looking for. Yeah.
Well, obviously you're in a very happy place now if you're doing what you love full time.
Yes, yes.
So let's go back to where all the passion for art began, because as you mentioned, you grew up in New Jersey.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about those early days of your childhood and what you were interested in as a child.
Well, it's funny. I guess looking back at it, I never thought my career would be so good at this point, honestly. My grandfather was a huge influence. He was a great cartoonist, and he was a purser in the airlines, actually, in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. And he would go, it's when people were not traveling. And so nobody was going to Europe, only the wealthy. He flew he was on a 9-person plane. He would come back with all these, candies and, different specialty items. And he would draw people that were in their native costumes or attire. And I was just fascinated by all of his drawings and his stories of travel. So I think that got the travel bug. And then his artistic skill. He was offered a position with Disney that he turned down to stay in the airlines. But I always remember art being a big part of my life. And as a child, my parents took me to museums quite often, and I was always drawn to the French Impressionism pieces. So I always had it as part of my life. And then my mother was also an avid hiker, and she would take me on hikes in New Hampshire and the White Mountains there. And I just enjoyed being outside. I really enjoyed nature.
So were you encouraged by your parents to start drawing and beyond what you may have done in school?
No, not at all. No. Mm-mm. I don't. That's what's interesting. I remember And my father was a musician too. So I had arts in my life. And my mom also kind of dabbled in watercolor. So I was exposed to it. But I have to be honest, it wasn't something that I consciously, at that young age, knew I wanted to be.
What was interesting you then most of all? What kind of activities did you get up to? Subjects that you might have enjoyed in school?
I kind of leaned towards history. I liked quite a bit. And when I got into college, I ended up doing more business related classes just because my parents divorced at an early age and money was pretty tight. But I think at that point, I didn't think I was going to be an artist. I thought maybe I would be in the arts, running a gallery or owning a gallery, something on the business side of it. So that was my initial thought. But I did take, my major was marketing and human resources, but I did minor in art history. So I always had it in part in my life a little bit.
And with parents divorcing when you're young, that it can impact a child in different ways.
Yes.
At what age were you when they did separate, and how did you feel about that? How was it impacted you, and which parent did you feel that you had lost the most, so to speak, in that process?
I was 14 and it was definitely my father. My father left and he left to be with somebody else. So it was pretty traumatic at that time. And he moved to California. We were living in Massachusetts at the time. So I didn't really have a great relationship with him. I didn't see him very often. So I felt that I needed at that time to really be able to have a career that I could support myself and be independent. And at that time, I just didn't feel like art was something that I could rely on to do that for myself.
And when you were, in your teenage years, of course, that's a very formative time for you and for a young woman. How were you keeping yourself busy and distracting you and getting the support from your peers to go through these transformative years?
Yeah, thankfully, I had a great circle of friends and I was always very busy and very involved. I ran track. I was swimming quite a bit. I was a cheerleader. I was part of student council. So I was always super busy and involved in activities. And I think that helped quite a bit.
And then, of course, it gets to the point where you've got to decide what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. Get into high school. And you said you were thinking that you've got to make a living and support yourself.
Yes.
How did that come about I know you went to Syracuse University and studied marketing and human resources, but that was for a bachelor's. So what were you thinking this would lead you to?
I wasn't exactly sure in the beginning. And I remember getting out of school, I wanted a job in marketing and I ended up getting a job in finance. And I remember I was hired initially more in operations accounting, which I did not like at all. But it was a stepping stone. And I told the interviewer at the time, I said, I will give you 1 year in doing this operational accounting. But I said, then I want to go into marketing. So it ended up that's what happened. I did a year in that position and then I got into institutional marketing, which I did really enjoy. And then later on in venture capital. So I don't regret those years. I learned a huge amount. It was great people, great clients. So I did really enjoy it for a long time.
So what were you doing for fun with your friends? Were you out dancing or?
Yeah, I love to dance.
Did you?
Yeah, I love to dance. We were out dancing quite a bit. Yeah, that was very fun. And I still ran. I did a lot of running. I look back at it like in San Francisco. I was living in San Francisco and the hills are pretty intense. And I was running up and down those hills when I was younger.
So in terms of dancing then, I'm curious as to what music you might have been listening to back then.
Oh, it was pop and rock mostly, But it was fun. I always danced in college. Syracuse back in the day had about 8 bars on campus and they always had, yeah, I know they don't have any more. I recently went back there. I think they have 1 now, but when I was there, it was pretty rowdy. And I belonged to a sorority too. And all the frat parties, there was dancing. So I was always dancing all the time.
Do you still?
Not as much. I have one friend that I'll go out with, but not as much, unfortunately. I really did enjoy it.
It's a shame, isn't it, as we get older, that we kind of lose that when we've enjoyed it so much and would if we had
Yeah.
the opportunities, apart from weddings.
Yeah, I agree.
There has to be more of this. It makes us feel good.
Yes, definitely.
Well, you did the leap there from New Jersey, from upstate to New York, Syracuse University, but then across the country. How did that move come to San Francisco?
Oh, well, that was funny. I had, so my girlfriends that I grew up with, a couple of them moved out to California to go to grad school. And I would come out and visit them. And I had one girlfriend that was like, "You're young, just quit your job and move out. You'll find a job." And so like after 6 months of her calling me up and saying, "Hey, just quit your job," I did. I quit my job. I went out, and I temped for a while, and I went back to accounting because everybody always needs those accounting skills. So I temped for about 6 months in different financial firms. And then I landed a permanent job, in marketing, institutional marketing again in San Francisco.
And had you been living with your mother before you went to college?
No, I came back home for a year after college. My brother was 5 years younger, and she had asked me, he was a senior in high school. And she said, "Can you just give me a year to kind of watch him?" Because she was a nurse that did the night shift. And I said, "Sure, I'll come back." So after that, I did have an apartment with some girlfriends in the Boston area. And then I moved to San Francisco after that.
Was that an easy move for you? Tell us a bit more about it. And, that's quite a transition when you're a young woman.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I was excited to move, but I was nervous that I didn't have a job at the time. And I remember that I had a place to live for 2 months. So my girlfriend who wanted me to come out, one of her roommates, actually another friend, was also in France for the summer. So I knew I had just a room for 2 months. And then after that, I needed to find my own place and get established. So that I kind of like deadlines. I'm somebody that works really well that way. Like if I have a set parameter, I'll ramp up. So that just kind of gave me a good base to live with her for a couple months. And then through networking, I found a nice apartment with some other girls, and eventually found a full-time position.
So it seems you got very well established then very quickly. And
yes.
Made that your home out there.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about how the work then led you back to the art world.
Well, actually, it wasn't until I got married and had my kids that it really led me back to the art, because I ended up, when my kids were in elementary school, I was still going to museums, but I wasn't doing art myself. I led their art program for 7 years, and I managed about 20 parent volunteers. So I got very involved in the program, and I was also teaching the program for my kids' classes. So that kind of initially got me back, but I still didn't think it was going to be my career. And then I started working part-time for a university in their exhibitions area, and I would help organize their exhibitions and meet the artists coming in, and help with the receptions and hanging the work. So I had that background also.
How did you meet your husband, Mark, who's a biotech executive now? Where did that journey begin? Tell us the start of the love story.
Well, so the same girlfriends who got me out here, one of them was working with my husband at Ernst & Young, and she's like, "Oh, I found the perfect guy for you." And I didn't believe her. And she's like, "You've got to meet him." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And I had only been here for 3 months.
So how old were you at that time?
I was 24. Yeah. And so about 2 months later, I said, "Okay, well, I'll only meet him if there's like a group happy hour, or something, like 20 people there. I'm not going to walk into a restaurant and just meet him or whatever." So then I ended up meeting him, and we did hit it off, obviously. And we started dating, and I think it was a year after we dated, he proposed, and we got married a year after that. So
where was the marriage then? You've got to fill in the blanks and paint a picture for us here, Ellen.
So we actually got married in Napa, which was great. So we were married in a church in St. Helena, and then we had our reception at Chimney Rock Winery, which was really nice. Everybody came out from Boston, and I had my friends here. So it was a picturesque wedding. It was very nice.
Did you move very far to live together?
He had an apartment down in the marina, which was great. And so after we got married, I didn't want to live with him before. I moved in with him down in Chestnut, which I loved. It was like, when you're young, and it's still, I went there last weekend. It's still a happening place, very fun, energetic place. So we lived there for about 3 years. And then I would just work in the financial district. So it was a very short commute. His consulting job changed and he was commuting to San Jose, which was a pretty long drive for him every day, like about an hour and a half from the marina. So we ended up moving down to the peninsula in Burlingame, San Mateo area after that.
You seamlessly went from being a single girl into marriage, but I'm curious when you said that you didn't want to live with him before you were married. That's a very old-fashioned standard in these days, isn't it? Where did that come from?
Yes. I really enjoyed living with my girlfriends, and I just figured I'd be living with him for the rest of my life. And I just wanted to stay with my girlfriends until after we got married. I don't know. It was a little old fashioned and he was disappointed. He really wanted me to move in before that. But I was kind of glad that I stayed with my girlfriends until we got married.
Yeah. Like you say, you've got him for the rest of your life. So you might as well have enjoyed your girlfriends while you could.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you started a family. So tell us about, you've got two children, Jonathan, who's a portfolio manager, and Rachel, who's in vet school. I love to hear that. Is it horses that she's interested in?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's a horse girl. So it was, oh my gosh. So she never wanted dolls as a kid. At like 2 years old, she wanted all those little horse figurines, and she would collect animals, and she was so mischievous. Like she would get into everything. And so she started riding. She wanted to ride at 6. And I was like, no, because you're too accident prone. And I let her start riding around 8. So I was always in the stables, and I was afraid of horses. So it was a big deal for me to go down and be with her so often with the horses. But yeah, she's always been a big animal lover, and I'm very proud that she, got into vet school and she's doing so well.
And how do you feel about horses?
She owns a horse now. She in college, she was doing a research study, and they offered the students to buy these horses at 6 months, and she went and bought the horse without me knowing. So I've learned to like the horses, but I'm still a little nervous, and I think the horses know I'm still a little nervous around them. So it's pretty funny.
Yes, they absolutely do know.
Yeah.
That was my start in life, was riding, and my mother was terrified of horses. She wouldn't come anywhere near them, so I was very much on my own.
Oh, that's
yeah. So you never had animals then as a child?
No, we always had dogs. I love dogs, and I love animals. She probably gets that from me. It's just for some reason with the horses, they're a little intimidating, but I have ridden her horse. So,
oh, wow.
Yes,
congratulations. You've overcome the fear.
Yeah, I've overcome. And she teaches me something. She's like, okay, Mom, come in this stall. And I'm like, do I have to? And she goes, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. So she's very persistent on teaching me a little bit more about the animals.
So how do you feel about her becoming a vet then? Because that's a very committed lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm happy for her because, it's part of her DNA. I don't know how to describe it. Like she walks into a room and there's animals there. They just follow her. Like she's born to do this. Yeah. And then she's very good with surgery, which is something that's not appealing to me either, but she's very, driven to it. If you meet her, it's just in her. I don't know how to explain it.
It just runs in your veins and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Yes, definitely.
So what kind of activities were you doing with your children and when they were growing up, Ellen, that maybe you did with your parents?
Oh, I took them, John especially, my firstborn. we were always hiking. He would always be in my, like, I'd have him in my backpack, and I'd always laugh because he would tap me on the head and go, "Faster, Mom." We were always, and then the beach. I took my kids to the beach all the time. We'd fly kites. We had the dogs with us. Because I'm a big swimmer, the kids were always in swim classes. So my son, was a great surfer. He went to school at San Diego State, a big water person like me. And, so those were probably the primary ones. And and art with my kids. I did do a lot of art, with them growing up too.
Because you mentioned that your parents took you to museums and galleries, so you had that cultural experience, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
What were the influences that you were carrying with you into adulthood from those experiences?
I think appreciation for the arts. My daughter was actually, she's doing, obviously, being a vet, but she was very creative. She was a great drawer as a child. And then my son was into music. So my son was one of the top bass players, when he was in high school in California. So he was in a high school orchestra and also a private orchestra, and they traveled internationally. So I was really happy that, one child did music and the other child was doing art as they were growing up.
Maybe inherited that from his grandfather.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But tell us then how you morphed back into the art world, because you did some curating before you actually picked up the brush again. Talk a little bit about that, because obviously raising the children was the priority.
Yeah.
At what point were you able to sort of, to use an equestrian term, drop the reins and then move into your own interests again?
I think as they were starting to graduate from elementary school, I had a little bit more free time, and I enjoyed the art. And it actually, honestly, it wasn't until a girlfriend of mine was going through breast cancer treatments, and she said, "I want to try something different. I want to do an oil painting class. Will you take it with me?" And so it ended up being like 4 or 5 of our girlfriends took the same class, and I was like off. Like, as soon as I got the brush in my hand, I couldn't believe it. And my work was, I hate to say, better than most of the people. It was very innate for me to do it. And that was it. Like, soon as I started with that class, and I just knew that I had to continue. So it just spiraled. I kept taking more classes. I think, what that saying is, the doors kept opening for me. And I kept finding more instructors to take classes with. I went to a local community college, and at the time they had a master artist there who was drawing figuratively, and he took an interest in me. And I did a lot of charcoal drawing, and then started with pastels, doing floral still lifes. Just loved it. And then his wife was actually doing a lot of plein air work, so I started taking classes with her. And then it just kept growing. I started doing it more often and making it a priority in my life. So it's been wonderful, but I wouldn't have thought that at the time when I started.
Were these your first serious art lessons then, or did you have some art when you were a child?
No, I had, the regular curriculum, for high school, you take an art class, but no, I didn't have any. Syracuse University actually has a very good art program, and I didn't take any. I took art history, but I wasn't doing any practical art at the time. So yeah, it was my first time that I was doing professional art classes.
So as you were going through these classes, and it just was going from one thing to another, you were using different mediums. Were you drawn to any one subject, or were you having a go at everything at that point?
Initially, I was drawn to still lifes and floral work. And, but then as soon as I got outside painting plein air, it was landscape. And I just loved being outside. I just love observing what's going on with the light, the time of day, if the fog rolls in or a light shining on a tree. I just really enjoy being outside. So I think that took over afterwards for me.
You mentioned that your mother dabbled in watercolors. So was there a particular medium that you were drawn to?
I actually, now that you say that, I took one watercolor class. I hated it. No offense to any watercolor people, but it was just, you have to have a lot of patience with watercolor. And I didn't like that the transparency at the time. I wasn't getting a lot of the darks. So it wasn't something I wanted to pursue, but I did like the pastels initially. And then as soon as I got into oils, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I just loved working with the medium.
And do you mostly paint on canvas or do you paint on wood? What do you prefer?
I mostly paint on canvas. So it's usually linen panels. So it's on boards. And I like that. I like that better than the canvases because with the canvas on the stretcher, the brush can have a little bit more give and take on it when you hit the canvas. And with the linen boards, it's a stiffer surface. And so I went to the stiffer surface when I'm outside because you can't bring these huge, canvases outside. And then it kind of translated into my studio work. So I just buy larger sizes of the linen boards for my studio work too.
So who have become your influences or at least the artists who you're drawn to now, both, historically and contemporary, Ellen?
Well, I was really lucky. I ended up doing some curatorial work for a woman, and it was also, I had a studio in this art center. I met a lot of people. And then when I joined the California Art Club, I was around a lot of senior artists that really inspired me. And so I learned all about the early California painters, Edgar Payne and Hudson Putoff and Percy Gray. And I was studying some of their work and then the history of the California Art Club. And I became a co-chair for the San Francisco chapter. And then currently I'm a vice president for the organization. And so just being with them, they have a very high caliber membership. So painting with them was really wonderful. So that was kind of my first take into, I guess, this prestigious art world there.
And historically, which artists are you drawn to?
Well, I do love Edgar Payne's work. Soroya's work is beautiful, but I still come back to Monet for some, he still, as a child, his work captured me. And now I'm starting to, in my studio work, go more for a moody effect. And I love Monet's later works of the water lilies. And I've been to Paris many times, and it's always where I go. There's several museums that have his work, and I'm always drawn to standing in front of his work and observing what he's done. So he's probably one of my biggest idols.
Tell us about the other galleries you've visited around the world.
Well, when I was younger, I was at the Van Gogh Museum, which was beautiful, and I love his work too. And I'll be teaching a workshop in Provence next September, and we'll be going to Saint Remy, where Vincent van Gogh spent a year in the asylum, and he did some of his most famous work, Starry Night and Wheat Fields and Cypress Trees. So that was really wonderful. I've been to Boston, and I've been to the Met recently last November, and I enjoyed seeing, Mary Cassatt was there, which was beautiful, and Klimt. I love Klimt's work also. And there was Van Gogh's and Monet's, of course, there. Degas, they had a wonderful room with all of his dancers and then also his sculpture work, which was fantastic. So every time I go to a major city, I go to whatever museum. Here in San Francisco, we're very lucky. We have the De Young, the Legion. The Legion currently has a great exhibition on Mary Cassatt. Also down in Stanford, they have the Cantor Museum and the Anderson Collection. The Anderson Collection's more contemporary artists. So that's also wonderful to go see too. They have some Rothkos there. They're beautiful. Paul Thibault is one of my idols too. I loved all of his Still Life series on cakes and pies. So there's a lot of people that I'm influenced by and I really, really appreciate. And being in California, there's no shortage of really talented artists here.
Let's talk about books and literature and poetry and where you might get inspiration. What do you enjoy in the book world?
It's funny. I read a lot of books actually on business books for my art. And like James Clear on atomic habits, how to make your environment, how to make good habits. Angela Ducksworth on grit, how to keep motivated. And because I didn't go to school for art, those books were really essential for me because I felt like because I didn't have a quote unquote traditional art degree that I couldn't be successful in it. And so these books actually helped me see like, okay, well, persistence and consistency, not that you don't need to have your fundamentals and the techniques, you definitely do, but you can also overcome that by just being diligent and practice. The Talent Code by Daniel Coy, I like a lot. It's why certain areas of the country produces, great athletes or great musicians and the science behind that. So I do enjoy that. And then I do read just for fun, Gentlemen in Moscow. Like I like some fiction books and but I don't I do a lot of the business reading because I like to incorporate that in my newsletter. I come up with a theme and I apply it to a creative life. Like how do you get better creatively by following certain steps or, the mindset I get into. I think being a creative person, you have to have a certain mindset because it's a difficult thing to self-motivate yourself. You're alone a lot of time doing your work. So there has to be a mindset and discipline around doing that. So that's a lot of the stuff I enjoy studying.
How do you get into that frame of mind once you get into the studio? What process do you use for that transition?
Some days are super easy because I have an idea in my mind and I want to execute it. Other days, I don't feel like painting. And on those days, I'm like, okay, I gotta do my work. So I'll go in and I'll kind of go through my photos or go through my field studies and try to see something that will spark my interest. And then I'll start drawing a composition. As soon as I pick up a pencil to start drawing, then the ideas kind of come to me. And then I put on my favorite tunes. So whatever music really motivates me quite a bit. I don't put on classical because it puts me to sleep. So I have to have something peppy. So as soon as I pick up the brush and I have a good tune on it, I can usually get myself going again.
Here's a good tune.
Oh, I've been doing a lot of country western lately, which I've always been a pop or rock person, but I've been listening to Jelly Roll a little bit, his new album, which has been fun. And then I'll go to like Christina Aguilera and Tina Turner, Bruno Mars, anybody that has kind of a good beat, Michael Jackson, some of those. It just depends on my mood, whether I want to be really peppy or have more of a kind of subdued feeling in my work.
Would you say you're in any way spiritual or does religion play a part in your life, Ellen?
Yes, it does. It plays a big part in my life. Yeah. I grew up in the church and I still currently go to church. So yes, it does have a big part in my life.
And how do you express that, or how do you feel that transfers to your artwork, or does it?
Yeah, I think just being in nature and observing nature and appreciating and being grateful for God's creation, that's kind of what I want to show in my work. And I think for my collectors and clients, the comment that comes out the most is that my work is tranquil and peaceful. Mm-hmm. So I feel that has a spiritual aspect to it. And I'm very like that to me is the biggest honor for somebody to say that when they look at my work, it gives them peace, because I think especially in today's world, it's very chaotic still. And if my work can can exude that kind of emotion for people, that makes me really proud.
And does politics influence you as an artist at all? Because, often we see abstract painters, for example, who feel very strongly about politics, and that transfers to the canvas. I'm wondering if any of that creeps into you.
No, I will not allow any politics into my work. I stay very far away from that. It's not something that I want to represent in my work. Yeah.
Do you feel you're expressing your emotions, whatever they may be? They may be different each time you paint something, Ellen. Do you feel that it gives you the expression that you need now?
Yeah, I think so. What's interesting is my oil painting work is going to more of a calm, moody, peaceful expression. And the last 3 or 4 years, I've been doing work in gouache. And the gouache colors are very vibrant. So I find that I'm creating very vibrant, colorful works in my gouache work, and then having more of so it's almost like two sides of me, kind of like this happy expression of bright colors on one side, and then this more serious or subtle expression in my oil painting, which I find interesting.
When you look back at your life then and your journey back into art, what would you say would be the major milestones in your life and career thus far?
Oh, wow. I think 2016 was a big year for me because a lot of things started clicking. I was asked to be a featured artist for the Mendocino Open Paint Out and I was, in my opinion, very junior. There's 5 of us who were featured artists for this 60-person paint out. And the other ones were career artists that had been in the business for 20 or 30 years. So that was a big turning point. And having an upgrade, I had a really small studio before, but I moved into a really nice building with another artist. So I had a great space, which allowed me to expand my work. And then being exposed to the California Art Club, I was asked to join Paul Kratter as a co-chair for the San Francisco chapter. And that just opened my eyes to a lot of other artists. And I started getting into more competitions and winning awards. Just things started to click. And then since then, I've been a regular teacher. I've continued to get into more competitions and invitational plein air events. So it's every year it's continued to grow, which has been really nice.
What is the most satisfying part of your artwork, Ellen? Is it when you finish a piece, maybe show it to your husband, Mark, or other family members, or, stand back from it and feel what you feel and get their validation, if you will, or critique? Or is it when it goes public?
That's a couple things, I guess. When I'm in the mood that I'm experimenting in my work and something, in my opinion, works in my painting, and then when I finish something and I'm proud or I achieved what I was looking for, that's very satisfying. But I have to admit, I still look for validation. You post something on social media, do people like it? And I'm trying to get a little bit away from that.
That's hard to do, though, isn't it?
It is. And what's been interesting, too, is what I'm learning is, I'll do a painting and maybe initially it doesn't get recognition. And then, 6 months later, it gets in a competition and all of a sudden there's all these likes or all this fanfare about the painting. And, so it's sometimes it's not initially from outside validation. So I need to really step back and just trust myself that it's a good work.
How do you feel about being in competition and being judged? That's not for everyone.
No. And there's some artists that do what I call the circuit. They're in like 10 to 15 competitions a year. I probably do 2 to 3. And I like that ratio because I feel competitions do put you up against other people. So it's a benchmark on, where are you in your growth process? It kind of keeps you honest, and it also gives you a deadline. So I do like that. I think it keeps you fresh to do. I don't think you should do all of them like that to always be constantly judged. But I think doing some of them to keep your chops up and to see what's out there with other people in the industry, I think is really important.
So what's the most important aspect then of being an artist for you then? Is it public growth, so to speak, that validation both through competition and through sales and recognition publicly? Or is it what comes from the soul and when you go into the studio, what you want to produce? Because if you have commissions, that's a whole different pressure, isn't it?
Yes, and I don't do commissions. I don't want to be told what to paint.
You're a Leo, like me, Ellen. So
yeah, I'm a Leo.
We don't like being told what to do.
No, we don't. So I don't. That's not something that I go for. No, I really, for me, I'm trying to be the best painter I can be and express what I want to feel. And so I still have a lot to learn. And this kind of path of playing with different colors and moods is something that I'm really excited about. And that's something I want to explore more, to get behind the feeling, even when you go out in the field, like writing in a notebook, why are you painting the scene? Like what captured your curiosity about the scene? What do you feel about this scene? And then coming back into the studio and kind of capturing that emotion behind the work. So that's very appealing to me.
Tell us about the workshops and your teaching.
So I love to teach, actually. I've been teaching for, I think, 8 years at Art Attack. I teach 2 oil painting classes a week. And then I think for the last 7 years, I've been teaching 2 or 3 plein air workshops. So down in Carmel, Mendocino. Last year, I took a group to Spain, which was phenomenal. It was a beautiful setting, great painting locations. And I think what's nice about workshops is you're away from all the other daily concerns and you're just concentrating on your art. So, and you're also with like-minded people. So there's a real camaraderie there. So I really enjoy that. And I have no problem demoing and talking at the same time, because I find, just out of experience, it's hard to watch a painter just paint. I kind of, when I'm doing a stroke, I talk about why I'm doing it. It's a kind of a free flow, because I think it's important for students or the audience to understand the decision making behind what you're doing.
What would you say to the young Ellen who didn't know that she was going to become an artist one day? What advice would you give her?
Just be patient, that things will turn out well. And I guess patience. I think sometimes I think when the timing is right, you have to wait for when you're able to do something like that. And I think with all my experiences, I don't regret going into business first. I think it's helped me on the business side of my artwork. But I'm just very grateful that now I'm in a position where I can do this full time.
What kind of reactions do you like to hear about your work if you were to eavesdrop in a gallery? People didn't know it was you.
Probably a beautiful painting, and I like the mood of the painting. Probably, I feel peaceful when I look at it. Serenity. I paint a lot of sunsets too. One of my galleries down in Carmel has a lot of my paintings with sunsets, and I think it's a special time of day where you're finally at rest. You're busy all day long, and then when the sun sets, it's kind of like a deep breath that you're like, okay, I did a good day's work, and this is my reward, seeing this beautiful sunset, and the beauty of the warm colors against sometimes the cool of the night or the landscape is really nice.
Has it become a vital existence to you now. How would you feel if you couldn't paint?
Oh, it would be, yeah, half of me or three-quarters of me would be gone. I think it's who I am now. I can't imagine not being able to create or paint. It's a super important part of my existence.
Would you be grumpy? How would you be?
Oh, I would be super grumpy. Yeah. I would not be fun to be around. Even if I'm not painting one day, like I like to go out and go, oh, I called my girlfriend. I was teaching. I have a night class that I teach, and I was coming down the hill and the moon was like this bright yellow. And I called her up. I go, go outside. She's a fellow artist. I go, look at the moon. Like, it makes you see things differently, and my kids laugh all the time. They'll send pictures. She goes, Mom, those were great clouds. Cause I love clouds too. And I go, oh, Mom, you're looking at clouds again. So it's a whole different way of looking at life. And so the people that know me really well, they'll send me photos or, oh, I thought of you because, the sunset was great, or, oh, the light was really good, or I love marshes too. Oh, this is a great marsh scene. And so, yeah, it's an integral part of me. And, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't have it in my life.
What do you do for fun then when you're not painting and being a wife and mother?
I still take my hikes. I love to walk. I have 2 dogs that I love spending time with, and I still go to art museums a lot. And I have a pretty wide circle of girlfriends that I enjoy doing stuff with besides my husband. I love spending time with him too. So I'm pretty social. I do enjoy the company of a lot of different people.
And what does 2025 have in store for you?
I think continuing to do deep studio practice and exploration of color. I'm hoping to take a couple trips. I always like going to new locations because it always just sparks some kind of inspiration in my work or some discovery. So travel is still a big part of it, and just continuing to do some plein air painting. And I've got a couple competitions that I'll be doing. One's coming up in March at Borrego Springs, and Borrego Springs is a desert area, and it was a new kind of landscape for me, and I wasn't too sure about it having more work on the coast, but I loved it. There's a quiet beauty to the desert too, so I'm really excited about going down there again. And then I'll be in Carmel, and I'll be taking a group, the California Art Club, to Yosemite, which is another beautiful place to paint. So I'm looking forward to those things.
And you mentioned that you've always been a swimmer. Do you still swim regularly?
Yes, I still love to swim. Our family was lucky enough to go to Hawaii in December, and my son and I were in the waves the whole time. I can't get enough of it. Yeah, it was really nice.
And that, of course, inspires your painting, I'm sure, when you've been close to the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so.
What's on your bucket list, Ellen Howard?
More travel. I love to travel. I love doing new things. I think I get that from my grandfather growing up. And so, yeah, I would like to see more places and continue to do some workshops overseas, I think are fun. And to spend a little more time with my children because they don't live in the state. So my daughter will be getting her white coat this March. She'll be going out, and then she'll be getting her doctorate next year for the vet study. So I'm excited for that.
Well, lots to look forward to then.
Yes, very much.
In the future. And meanwhile, we've taken you away from the studio, obviously. So back to the studio, is that pretty much every day then you have to be in the studio?
Yeah, most days. Yeah, if I'm not there the full day, I'm there at least a half a day. Yeah, or I'm outside painting.
Well, it sounds like lots more to come, and it's been an enjoyable ride so far for you, Ellen.
Oh, it's been thrilling. I'm so happy that I get to do this now. It's really been a gift.
Well, thank you for sharing your journey with us and being my guest this week on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And if you have a moment to scroll down the show notes, you'll find both the full transcript of this episode, as well as links to Ellen's social media. And you'll also find us on Instagram at The Art Podcast. Don't forget that's art with 2 A's, where you can leave a DM. If you have any suggestions for guests, we'd love to hear from you. You can also reach us via email at theartpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget, art is with 2 A's. And we're also on YouTube now, where you can find bonus content. You can find a video of my guest and I chatting about the show, and maybe we have some afterthoughts, a little bit of bonus content for you. And you can subscribe to that. Just look for The Art Podcast. Again, the art with 2 A's. And all of our episodes are also on YouTube. You know, you may be listening on your podcast app, but you can also go over to YouTube. Every episode is there. There are, I think, 93 episodes now. So lots to listen to. And of back seasons 1 and 2, now that we're into seasons 3, we have a lot more interesting guests for you this year. Don't forget, we are bi-weekly in season 3. So I hope you've subscribed to Art on your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And you can also share it with a friend who you think may also enjoy the show. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another creative woman from around the world of visual arts. So I do hope you'll join me then. In the meanwhile, my thanks to this week's guest, Ellen Howard, and to you for listening. Goodbye for now.